Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition, a special Monday night edition of the African American Athlete. I'm Rickey Hampton with my friend and frat brother, Michael Roberson, coming to you on a Monday, as I said. Uh, Mike, good to see you, brother. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to be joined in a bit by our friend Derek Gervin, from former New Jersey Nets shooting guard. Derek's been talking with us throughout the NBA playoffs. And although we're in May, baseball season is in full swing. Basketball is still a huge story. But before we get to the NBA, I want to get your thoughts on the WNBA season. And of course, Caitlin Clark, you covered college basketball for years now. And you know that.
Probably the WNBA next year if everything goes to plan because
Yeah,
it'll be out here.
yeah, and I mean, you've covered Final Fours. You know the game as well as anybody. Your thoughts on Caitlin Clark's transition to the league, and what is she? 3 games in now, whatever. Uh, just your overall thoughts about this whole thing and the scrutiny she's getting.
Right. And then she had a situation where she stepped wrong and kind of tweaked her ankle. So it was a whole hush of the crowd because they're in that town. And she got up. But this is a rematch of the first game against Connecticut. So the funny thing about it is that I know one of the Connecticut players really well, Dejanay Carrington, who played here at Stanford. And then after, I guess her eligibility was up here, she ended up going to Baylor, and they made it to the Final Four, but that's when South Carolina won. But let's give you a little history of her legacy. Her father, defensive back for the San Diego Chargers, DJ Carrington.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
So, and then when she was a little girl, I guess with her brothers and all that, she actually played a little football. So I used to tease her. at the games. I said, "Come on, Dejanay, you out here knocking young ladies over." I said, "You gotta chill a little bit." And so, yeah, I was always cool with her. And but she was like the focal point for guarding. Gave Caitlin her introduction to the NBA. And you know what that was similar to? Another guy that's in the news now, Patrick Beverly, did that to Ball. Remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah. So that's what it seemed like. And then, the person that's kind of getting caught under the shadows is the reigning Rookie of the Year. You don't even hear her name anymore. So all the focus has been on her. So it's the leading scorer last year. It's not really getting heard from. And then Aaliyah seems like, this is going to be a weird sophomore year from her. Does she elevate into another role? Does she, be more of a rebounder instead of trying to score? So it's going to be interesting with that. So even though I haven't covered the WNBA, but there's a lot of players in there I have come across. And
and Indiana is still, they have the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
And
Aaliyah Boston and a champion.
And they're off to a 0-3 start this year. Although I'm looking at the updated score here. They're actually leading.
It's halftime.
Yeah.
So you should
44-41 at halftime. And Clark has 8 points and 2 rebounds.
And she missed the whole rest of the half. She missed the whole rest of the half, so they're wondering if she's going to get back in the second half.
But Mike, I mean, very few rookies come in and just dominate.
I'll give you one example. Candace Parker. Not only did she come in and get Rookie of the Year, she was also MVP. She did a Wilt Chamberlain type move.
Yeah.
So it can be done, but
it happens, but it don't happen. It doesn't happen a lot, man.
Exactly.
I mean,
and she had nearly nowhere near the hype that's going on right now. So that's why it's even more magnified.
Yeah, and she doesn't have the physical attributes that Candace was. Just a great player, dominant player. We know some of the stuff that's going on. This really good player, who happens to be white from Iowa. I mean, for some people, she's the great white hope. I mean, let's just be honest about it. And that's
Well,
no fault.
what would exacerbate it more would be if she was from Indiana. Then they
Yeah.
really could use all the border comparisons. So
Yeah. So hey, she'll be fine.
right.
Anybody that thinks she's gonna come in there and dominate like she did at Iowa doesn't know basketball.
Right.
He's playing against kids. These are grown women
Well,
and some of the best players in the world.
right. And I'm sure Derek will be talking about this a little later too. But it's not like the NBA, where NBA has become more European basketball. That was David Stern's hope to make this a global league. But if you look at the rules nowadays, it's like a European league. Whereas the WNBA is still letting you guard somebody, still letting you get some contact in there. So that's why it's like, hey, why is she not doing like Steph? I said, well, the Warriors have a pretty good offense to get people open. Secondly, they're not allowed to do as much against Steph than it would have been maybe 30 years ago. Somebody like Freddie Brown had to work hard to get a basket, and they know that try to go to the hole, or if you can't beat somebody off the dribble and you're a shooter, you're pretty much done.
Yeah, you got to find different ways to do that. And I before we get to the NBA, because I'm trying to wait on Derek.
All right.
Anything going on out your way you want to touch on, Mike?
Well, I've been doing a lot of soccer. So like we have a team, Bay FC, which is an expansion team. It's in the Bay Area, so they won an exciting game, and I'll be going to them again on Friday, and then the Earthquakes play the following day. So this will be back-to-back weekends with them having back-to-back games. So that's been going on. Baseball-wise, I haven't done anything, but I'll probably do the game when they play the Yankees in the beginning of June. And that's it. The A's are been playing, pretty steady. And people are saying, man, for this to be their lame duck year, how crazy would that be if they have actually a good year or even make the playoffs? So that was a huge monkey wrench and everything.
Are people going out to the stadium?
Still lacking on attendance, but I haven't seen any major protests. I haven't seen any. In the beginning they were protesting on the parking lot, not going to the game, but I haven't seen anything like last year where they did a reverse protest where they went into the stadium. Yeah. They just basically protested. Matter of fact, I think that was the game.
Were you at that game?
The perfect game one. I think I was there. Yeah. I think that was the perfect game one, or it was another game that I was at. But I was there when it happened.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm just reading now. A Bay Area legend passed away. Jim Otto.
Oh, yeah.
For all you old schoolers, 00 passed away at 86.
Raiders legend.
All us kids growing up as kids, everybody wanted to be. He's the only person, whoever wanted to play center. But some people did because Jim Otto.
Well, then you go a little fast forward to the 70s, Mike Webster. Mike Webster.
Yeah. We're double 0. Yeah. That's kind of my age group is Jim Otto, and then we're getting storms here in the Detroit area. Woo. So R.I.P. to him.
Yeah, definitely rest in peace. What's happening in the D sports wise? And we know you got a big moment. Either it already happened or it will be happening with Rob Parker with the Soul Station. Does that?
Yeah, they launched that about a month ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he showed a billboard. He showed a billboard over in Detroit. So that's an exciting moment. That's a pioneering moment because he and I both remember when that sports station started back in the 90s. I think he got on there, and I remember they were giving me the runaround about, well, we're looking for local people. And, of course, Rob Parker's from New York, Long Island. And then I saw another guy was from Seattle. I'm like, really? I said, at least I was a state away. So, yes, I went through all that. This is when I was living in Pennsylvania. but I was reaching back to Detroit and Chicago because they had both got new stations.
Yeah, it was that. Gosh, that station's gone now.
Yeah, I forgot the name of
Fan. I think it was the Fan or something. Uh, yeah,
it. It'll pop
it
up.
was a AM station. The Fan. I forget. These stations just seem to come and go now.
Right. That was a big deal in the early 90s. That's when everything started to kick off that way with the sports radio talk.
Hey, let's hit on this before we get Derek. The all-rookie team came out today. Uh, First team, Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, who in his second year but had to sit out all last year.
Well, that Blake Griffin and a couple other players did that too.
Yeah, Brandon Miller, Hawkes from the Heat, Hamey Hawkes.
Yeah, from UCLA. I actually covered him, so I've seen him.
And Brandon, how does he pronounce his name? Podinsky from the Warriors. Had a good year for them. That was first team, second team. Derek Lively for the Mavericks. Amen Thompson for the Rockets. Keontae George for the Jazz. Cason Wallace for the Thunder. And G.G. Jackson for the Grizzlies. I don't think I saw any of these other guys outside of Lively only recently in the playoffs play.
That's why it kills me when you get these jerks that come on here and say, oh, man, the 90s and the 80s didn't have anything. We knew every player. When Tim Hardaway and them came out, 89, 90, we knew that David Robinson was the Rookie of the Year. And we knew Tim Hardaway, Pooh Richardson, a few other players were, on that rookie team. And then you even knew the second team. But now it's like, okay, do we know this guy? And then were they a two-way player, where they might have got enough minutes in to be considered a rookie? So it's totally different now. And it's a different era. And it's really upsetting when they try to compare eras, especially when they do it in a diminishing way.
Yeah. Obviously, Wembanyama, I think, is going to be outstanding.
Right.
Holmgren, he's going to have to get stronger, Mike, because even in this last series, he really got pushed around. But he's a talented kid.
Let's put this in perspective, Ricky. So a few years ago, the two top high school players in the country, Holmgren and Monty Bates.
Just from Ypsilanti here in the Detroit area.
Yeah, but it's amazing what happens in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never predict. You never know where you end up. Was that the right fit for you? Is your education bad where you might not really get opportunities where somebody that they say, oh, that's a golden, good young man, so definitely want him on my team. Sometimes players get their reputation precedes them, and then they, end up basically in oblivion. Not Bolivian, Mike Tyson, but in oblivion.
And speaking of Imani Bates, he did play this year. He was in Cleveland, and he just set the bench for most of the year, averaged 2.7 points per game. And it's going to be interesting. He's a really talented guy. But, Mike, it takes more than talent to make it in the NBA.
Well, that's what I said. It also takes timing and being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
You have all the talent in the world, but if you were somewhere where you're not utilizing it, let me tell you this right now. I was so upset the 88 draft, but the 87-88 year, Mark Jackson was Rookie of the Year. So the Knicks in the 88 draft, which was a couple months later, say, hey, let's get another New York point guard. Let's get Rod Strickland. I'm like, why? You're going to mess up somebody's career for the other, or you might mess up both their careers. Because I was thinking, like, Rod Strickland needs to be on a team on his own. He doesn't need to go and have to back up Mark Jackson. He's at the same level. So that one was really upsetting to me. I mean, yeah, you get both players get to come home, but I'm sure Mark will say, "Yeah, I'm happy to be home, but I don't want to be sitting here backing up Mark."
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was one of the most puzzling ones from when I was while I was in college, because I used to see Rod Strickland in Chicago. When I used to be down in Chicago, I'll see him out at the club and all that. And he's a DePaul star, but he was even they had no NIL then, but he was living it. He was popular. He was real popular in Chicago. So just imagine.
I know some of these cats are looking at these NIL deals now and
I know.
thinking, man,
Yes.
I could have got a little bump.
Yep.
And Mike, we were talking before we came on the air. If you are a starting quarterback, this is a story from CBS Sports.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible NIL money and how much some guys are making and all that. It's not exact, but because you can't just find out everybody. Right. But it takes a look at some of these kids and what they're getting paid. And if you're a starting quarterback and you want to transfer, the market range is between $500,000 to $800,000 for a quality starting quarterback in Power 5 football. If you are a big time quarterback, you can make up to $2 million. Now, in basketball, if you are just a really good player, you can make up to $2 million. This kid, I never heard of him until I read this story only a few minutes ago. I love his name, though. Great Osobor, Osobor, from Montana State, signed a $2 million deal to play for Washington, the University of Washington. Dude averaged 17 points and 8 rebounds a game for Montana State last year. Mm. So I guess the Huskies think he's going to really blow up, or he's got a damn good agent.
Well, not only that, they're going to the Big Ten. So you got to deal with that. So you want to try to get
you know what? That's a great point. Yeah.
Same with football. So you figure somebody wants to go to Washington for football because Penix is gone.
Now, what's funny, for running backs in college football, and this might sound familiar to you, if you're an outstanding football running back, you can make between $200,000 and $300,000 in NIL money.
I'm surprised they didn't get low ball like they do in the NFL, which they made them pretty much obsolete.
Right. And wide receivers start from $75,000 to $300,000. But the thing says here, you have multiple starters. You have 3 or 4 wideouts. So that kind of drops the price range. And if you're a big-time offensive lineman, you can make from $350,000 to $500,000.
Are there incentives throughout the year?
Like it does not say that. Okay. It does not say. But what do you think about just all this money?
I mean, I hate to be simplistic, but it is what it is. This is where we are, and there's people back in the day saying, "Man, I wish I was there when I was there." So you can either say, "You know what, this is unfair," or you can say, "You know what, I'm happy for them. Unfortunately, it didn't happen when we were there, but unless it happened under the table." But I mean, to have it being legal and to make it, where you can say, "Okay, I would rather stay in college now because who knows when we'll make the NFL, but I'll make some good money in college." And then maybe make some connections and be a sponsor for some of these companies. And maybe I work at the company if I don't, make it in the league.
Yeah. And Mike, we know what these coaches are being paid.
Right.
And they would not be paying this money if they weren't making it back.
Exactly.
So uh, hey, more power to these cats, man. Make that money while you can, and hopefully, because all these guys, even though they're getting these nice NIL deals, all these guys aren't going to make it
Right.
in the NFL or NBA. We
Or
know how hard it is to
or they
make it
might
in
not find a team. They might even find another team. You could be like, oh, okay, this is the market, but
right,
we have
yeah.
nothing going on, buddy. So
That happens. That
right,
definitely.
you're out there in limbo, and then then it's like I'm questioning my career now. I mean, do I have to say, okay, it was a good run. I had fun in my couple years in college, but I got to move on, especially if you have a family.
Hey, I'm hoping Derek could join us, and when he does, we'll get in. But we need to get into some of this NBA stuff, and
yeah, let's talk about Mike Malone. I mean, once again,
okay, you got to set it up, Mike.
I always put myself in a position. What would I have done if he'd said that to me? They would have taken away my credentials. Cause I'm like, first of all, just because your poor sport ASS can't answer the question, don't try to insult my intelligence. I've been doing it for 30-something years, and only been coaching the Nuggets for a couple years. And I know you're a daddy's boy, but you ain't gonna be insulting me. I'm a grown man. So that's what would have happened, and I'm sure they would have said.
Tell the viewers, set it up for the viewers.
So some reporter, I don't know who it was, but he asked, "Hey, you guys, what is your feeling about you guys had a 20-point lead, sometime throughout the game? I think it was third quarter or maybe even
third quarter, yeah,
right." And he said, feeling, being smarmy as he always is. He said, feeling. He said, that's done. No, I'm not worried about 20 points. And then he mumbled on his breath, stupid A question. And then I get people on TV talking about, especially the ex-players, the analysts that don't know anything about journalism. They say, yeah, I understand what he was saying. I understand. I said, especially Acho. Oh my God, I wanted to reach through the TV and kill Acho when he's sitting there being a cape for everybody that's doing idiotic stuff. Remember, he got started with Fox because he says a conversation with a black man. And he was like the friendly guy you could tap on the head and say, you know what? I wish everybody was like him. And then all of a sudden they put him on Fox, and then they pretty much got rid of Marcellus Wiley, that dude. So he's had that mess, and everybody's making excuses for him. Like, well, he's emotional and blah, blah, blah. I said, it still doesn't make any sense for you to disrespect this dude like that. Because he said, you don't know what it's like, or, basically insulting his intelligence, and then basically saying it's a stupid question. So this dude, Acho, who's getting everybody mad, says, yeah, he was just saying the question was stupid. He wasn't talking about you. I'm like, dude, are you serious? If you're the one that uttered it, then he's talking about you. He's talking about your intelligence. That'd be just like somebody said, hey, man, I don't know if you were raised right. Who is he insulting right there? He's insulting your mother. So that's what I'm saying about I can't stand these cats that get on here and become Pollyanna on TV. And they do this, and it always seems like, okay, we're going to defend quote unquote the white guys in sports if they do something wrong, but if a black person does something, this same dude was all on Kyrie about how aloof and how much troublemaker he was. Kyrie may be going to the NBA Finals this year, and everybody's going to talk about, he had all this, and for the first time we really think he is ready to be a good teammate. So it's like, really? So this dude is a great coach, only winning one championship. And he's only relevant because his father, okay? And then when he doesn't win back-to-back, after all that trash talking he did but to the Lakers, all of a sudden now you can't take it. Because how many times did they Lakers below 20-point leads? And then he's not on there going, well, you know what? Forget that, because we think the Lakers, they shouldn't have to answer to that. No, you thought it was cool that the resilience my team has to come back and gut out all those games. So that's what I'm saying. He's a fraud. I never liked him, and I hate to be a journalist that's doing favorites, but I was so happy Minnesota won. I wouldn't get there anymore. And I'll be glad when Derek comes on and see how he feels. But I definitely, I know Derek liked Denver and he predicted Denver, but I was just hoping Minnesota won.
I'm with you on that, man, because the guy asked a question that had to be asked. You had a 20-point lead.
Exactly.
And you blew it. I mean, what's that like? That doesn't happen all the time, especially in a conference game, game 7.
Yes, exactly.
So that was actually an obvious question.
Obvious and a correct question. It's something that's apropos. Because what do you want? You want a popcorn question like, hey, so Mike, you had a great year this year, but what are you gonna do in the off season? You gonna go to the gonna go fishing or something like that? That's the kind of question you want, because come on, I don't know how the Denver media is, but I definitely would have been, lost my credentials, because I already told you, I almost got into it with Shanahan, because I don't care. George Karl and I almost went at it. The coach from Marquette. Mike Holmgren and I almost went at it. The coach from Marquette, I forgot his name, back in the 90s. He used to be assistant coach with Arizona. I'll wait for Derek. But yeah, so yeah,
I think he coached at Tennessee
too,
right?
Me as a grown man, you're not gonna be talking to me like that. You're not Bobby Knight, and I wouldn't have took it from Bobby Knight either.
Yeah. But let's look at that game, man. They were cruising up 20 points, and we've seen this in the playoffs this year. Right. Mike, I keep saying these double-digit leads just don't mean what they used to mean.
Right, but see, that's what I was saying. When people say, "Man, you hating on the Warriors," man, I said, "Dude," I said, "Look at the actual situation. 15. Who says they would have won if Kyrie and Kevin Love played? Okay, so then 16, when they lose, oh well, there's an excuse. Draymond got suspended. Okay, then 17, you got KD, and then you guys were getting blown out early by the Spurs. But then that's when Kawhi got now they got the rule that you can't step under. Remember, he was gone for the series. So then in 18, once again, Golden State with KD, and they talk about this greatest team ever, they were down 3-2 to Houston. And then what happens? Chris Paul gets hurt. So then I said, how do you guys try to say this team is better than the Bulls? Bulls were never in a compromising situation in those 6 championships, especially when they went 72-10. And I actually covered that. So you get somebody like Skip Bayless actually say, well, I covered Michael. I said, no, you didn't cover him long as I did. So that's why I just really, say to people, you just believe in what your feelings. You're not really going to what really happens. And so then with Denver, once again, oh, well, this is going to be the new dynasty. Acho once again said nobody's going to beat them in a 7-game series. And then when they do it, he comes with all kind of excuses. And then this dude come out.
The weird thing about this series, Minnesota won 3 times.
They been swept, but they should. I mean, I know people say, let it go, Mike. Think about this. They're getting their doors blown off, right? And then this guy, our Canadian brother, is throwing stuff on the court, and lo and behold, I don't think this the league would want to have him suspended, because then it'll be an ugly series. They'll be down 3-0, and nobody wants to see the defending champ get swept. So they didn't suspend him, and then what does he do? He's the reason why they win Game 3. And I said, this is so unfair. So then they lose Game 4. Then they lose Game 5, and I said, you know what? It take a lot for Anthony Edwards to say he wants to be the face of the league, because you guys gonna end up laying down unless you get it going. And that's what happened. They blew them out Game 6, and then it looked like they were about to lay down in Game 7. And then I guess he got focused and said, I'm gonna start D'ing up Jamal. He's not gonna have these walk-offs like he did against the Lakers twice. and then all of a sudden he was turning the ball over, and then they went on that run. So, and he still shot, pretty bad numbers. And here's another thing that's funny about that. People say I've never seen a team with their star players shot 6 for 24 in Game 7, and they won the thing. I said, do you guys remember the 2010 NBA Finals? That's what Kobe did. And they're like, no, that's different. I said, that's exactly what happened. He was shooting bricks all game. Everybody said, and Boston had a 13-point lead, and they blew it. And then they end up getting up by 3. Then Ron Artest or Metta World Peace hit the dagger, and that's it.
I think the difference last night, the Timberwolves defense was just. Murray had 35 points. Joker had 34 points. Murray had 27 shots to get there. Joker had 28 to get there. Nobody else scored over 7 points.
Right, but here's a key person.
They only got to 90.
But here's a key person that was like MIA and not in Miami. But our guy from here in San Jose, Gordon. Gordon didn't have those miracle saves. And that's another thing people need to look at. The Lakers led like 70 to 80% of that series. And then you got 2 walk-offs, but everybody's talking about, oh, this team is just so dominant. So they already showed chinks right there. So let's say if Murray misses both of those, and now the Lakers got 3 games. Do we still see, well, hey, the Joker and Murray going to win it all, Game 7? Who knows if they're doing the same thing against them?
The West, man, to me, the West was wide open all year. Yeah. I'm looking at the standing now. Oklahoma City, and we're going to talk about them in a minute, the number 1 seed, they're gone. Yep. Denver, number 2 seed, they're gone. The Clippers were the number 3 seed, but only by 1 game.
Yep.
Dallas, 50 and 32, they are the other finals. But Oklahoma City, Denver, Minnesota, both LA teams, Phoenix, the Lakers, New Orleans, all those teams were capable of beating. See, I just don't think Oklahoma City was a strong number 1. And I don't think Denver was as good as last year. Losing Bruce Brown, who played great for them. Their bench, and as I just said last night, they only had 2 guys in double figures. They just weren't as good as they were last year. That West was as even as could be. Just like you said, the Lakers could have easily beat them the first round, right. And the Lakers were a 7 seed.
Right.
I know the Lakers were hoping they could get Oklahoma City.
Right.
Because they dominated Oklahoma City.
You had people saying stuff like, hey, man, maybe you guys should lose so you can get against OKC. I'm like, that is a loser's mentality. The Lakers should look at the only reason we didn't make it to the finals instead of them is that we couldn't close out games. All 4 of those games in the Western Conference Finals last year, they had to lead probably the first half and things like that. And they always found a way to lose it. And it always was like some gut-wrenching shot by either Porter or their ex-teammate, or it was like that. And then this year, like I said, Gordon making saves, and just throwing it, and then it goes right to our shooter. Boom. So it's like I think sometimes you got to take it as, instead of sitting there thinking that, hey, we're the next dynasty, you got to look at how many fortuitous bounces did we get. And then
Mike, that's part of it, man. Every team, what team wins that doesn't get lucky? You talk about the dominance of the Bulls. I guarantee you, sure, they had great teams. I guarantee they had some breaks too.
They had no moment where they were vulnerable and almost put out.
Yeah. Maybe so. I don't remember back then.
I was all
but a bounce of a ball here or there is just what it is. A bounce of a ball. And the reason I mentioned that about the Lakers, I'm just speaking to the balance that was in the Western Conference.
Right.
Golden State was 10 games over 500, and they were the number 10 seed.
Right.
Houston was 500. They wasn't even in the playoff. You put them in the West, in the East, and they would have been 500 in the East. They would have been the 9th seed over there in the East, just behind.
But if they'd had an Eastern schedule, who's to say?
Miami.
If they had an Eastern schedule, who's to say they would have had?
Yeah, they'd have probably been
it might have been tougher to play against each other in the East.
Yeah, I think it would have been easier. I think the strength was in the West this year. But let's speaking of the now, but let's go to this other before we go to the East. Let's talk about the other matchup, which was Dallas knocking off OKC. As I said, OKC got a really good young team, but I thought their inexperience. They didn't scare anybody. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander showed that he's a really good player, but they still need a little more seasoning going forward. Your thoughts on that series?
And despite that, they still had a good chance to go to the finals, because if Shai doesn't foul the 3-point shooter, and they showed that Kyrie got the rebound and put it up in time, but the ball wouldn't have been deflected if he didn't reach at it. So let's say if he missed it and then they don't get the rebound, OKC wins. So that's what I'm saying, that sometimes things come down.
But that happened though, Mike.
No.
Say they missed the first 10 shots.
No, but this is what I'm saying, that on
it's
that play,
it's never one play.
It is that one play in that case, because they had the lead, and if he missed it, they win.
But there's dozens of plays.
That's the worst thing you can do, and definitely in crunch time, is foul a 3-point shooter.
Oh, I agree with that.
That's what I'm saying. So if he
there's dozens of plays,
get the rebound, game's over.
But there are dozens of plays that lead up to that.
Yeah, but
what if the guy made one of his other 3-pointers in the first quarter?
You can analyze every game, but when you get down to, it's different when you can say, well, they wouldn't have had that big lead if you go back to this play in the third quarter. But when you get down to crunch time, it's a one-shot deal, win or lose. And as Doc Rivers says, a make or miss league. And it comes down to, if you make it, you win. If you miss it, you lose. There's no other finality than that right there.
Yeah, but it's more to the game than one play.
Yeah, but that's what people say.
Most coaches.
That's psychoanalyzing to really either say, that's the reason why we're gonna say we lost, because you know what, we can't just go by that one play. Well, when a guy missed when Pat Ewing missed that finger roll at the end of the game, yeah, but you know what, if we go back to the second quarter, if he'd have made those free throws, see, you do that, then you could.
That would have been 2 points. That would have been 2 points.
But that's what I'm saying. But then you can do that for every game and microanalyze.
Exactly. That is my point. You can always, this bounce of the ball here, they all count.
Well, what did they say? What did they say when Dallas lost? What did they say? They should have won that game, but they missed so many free throws.
Because they all count.
But that's what I said. That's when you can say, yeah, but you didn't make them. So
we shouldn't have worried. We don't worry about nothing that goes on in the first quarter.
That right there is just making it a bigger deal than what it is. Like that's why they give so much credit to people that hit buzzer beaters, and they say how clutch people are in the last couple seconds. They don't say that about, hey man, I remember the end of the second quarter, man, he hit this 3, and I'm sure that was the game winner.
But that counts, Mike.
But you can't sit there and say, okay, 24 minutes later, that's going to be the reason why they won. And you can't go back and say that's the reason why the other won.
You can't discount any possession. You know this. But every possession counts. Every basket. Okay. What if you're going down in the first quarter, you got a wide open dunk to put you up 2-0, and bam, you.
All right. So Ricky, let's say,
listen to me. You blow that dunk, and the ball bounces out of bounds. They go down and score 3. That's a 5-point turnaround to begin the game.
Exactly. And you can't
Nobody's
go
going
back
to think
to the
about
beginning
that.
of the game and say, well, that wouldn't have happened if he'd have made that layup in the first quarter.
But
You can't
I
turn
agree with that's not how people think, but that's the wrong way to think.
Well, when they say that, it is because that's just like when Giannis was talking about that. I don't believe in losers because that's your perspective, but on a failure. So, but somebody else gonna have a different perspective. So,
of course, they all, and
but,
I agree with you there, and I agree with Giannis.
okay, let's do this then. All right, so let's say you have a final exam, right? And you end up failing it. And you say, man, you know what? If I wouldn't the first couple questions, if I wouldn't missed those, I probably would have passed. How can you go back and say, all right, well, I could go change this, so there would have been a different result? The bottom line is when you go across the tape, who won? Just to definitely use a track and field analogy. If I crossed the tape before you, and then you said, well, man, if you'd have looked at the first 10 meters, that's where he lost it in the first 10 meters.
Yeah,
that still doesn't take away from the fact that that guy broke a world record.
Well, we just totally disagree on this one because every possession counts. I'm a golfer.
Then you saying there's
I'm a golfer, Mike. I play golf.
Never a winner.
If I bogey the first 5 holes and then birdie the last 3, am I clutch? But I still shot 2 over and lost by 2 points. Why? Because I screwed up the first 5 holes.
Right, and then that tells you you're not a pressure point moment where
would I not be pressure point?
You need to get birdies.
I birdied the last 3.
But then maybe you should have got an eagle to get your score.
No, maybe I should have parked the first 5.
Exactly, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that whoever beat you, they did it when they needed to.
Maybe they part. Let's move on, man. Right. We'll be. I appreciate the argument, Newt. We'll move on and talk about. I'm sorry for the coughing here.
All right.
Okay, did we get into this? We need to go east now, right?
Yeah, well, the Knicks, America's favorite Knicks, they did it. Let me tell you this, Ricky. I had, at these soccer games, I always get people ask me NBA questions. And he said, so you think the Knicks are going to win? I said, let me tell you what they did. They may have messed themselves up by not taking advantage of their 3-2 lead and winning game 6. Because, in the back of their mind, they said, well, we got game 7 at home in the Garden. Come on, we still got it. I said, too many off-the-script things can happen in a game 7. And what happened? Indiana shoots a record field goal record.
57%.
Yeah, and then you get other players didn't really show up, and then Brunson breaks his hand or something like that. So all that stuff happened. And I said, carpe diem. Don't sit there and say, well, we got the game 7 in our back pocket. No, take them out game 6. Step on their throat while you got the advantage. Same thing I said about the Knicks back in 94. I said, you guys are up 3-2, and then you're going out to Houston. Take care of them. And then what happened? Pat Riley let John Starks basically shoot them out the series. And here's another thing, Ricky, that I saw somewhere. The reason why he didn't have our frat brother, Rolando Blackman, in, because he had some kind of personal issue with Blackman. Blackman didn't want to do something he asked him to do, and he said, okay, and didn't even play him. So he let his team sabotage into the court. Yeah, just because you got some personal beef with Rolando Blackman.
But, Mike, let's look at the Pacers. They are a 6th seed. And you talk about things that happen. The Pacers have gotten some great breaks. They played good ball. They saw Milwaukee without Giannis. Mm-hmm. They saw a beat-up Knicks team. And even in the Eastern Conference Finals, Porzingis is going to miss the first 2 games. That's not the Pacers' fault.
Right. I agree.
They are taking advantage of the situation before them.
But Boston should win anyway without
I
Porzingis.
agree.
Yeah, so if Boston used that excuse, then that's on them. Like I said, the person that has the most to prove in these playoffs right now would be Jason Tatum. Because people will still go back to 22 when all of a sudden now you let Steph get his fourth. He finally gets a final MVP, all because you guys let Draymond punk you guys out. So, and he's got to live with that. And then all these other failures since then, well, they get bowed out early and this and that, and you got all these turnovers, record turnovers, you and Jalen. So this year, they need to finish the deal. Otherwise, people say, dude, we're getting tired of talking about y'all. We go through the same thing every year. So I think if they don't win it this year, Porzingis or not, I think people are going to start turning heads. And I'm sure they'll find a scapegoat would be Missoula. And, and they'll say, hey, man, we went to the finals right before you got there, and we haven't been back since.
They are the only
on the table for Boston.
They are the only number one seed left in the in the tournament. They're number one. The Pacers are a 6 seed. The Mavericks are five seed, and the Timberwolves are 3 seed, almost a 1 seed, just a game behind. And it's going to be interesting. These are kind of different teams. We're not accustomed to seeing the Pacers and the Timberwolves and even Dallas for a while in this position. So we're going to see how these guys handle that spotlight.
Right. But and so Indiana, remember, Indiana was looking like the best team in the East. Well, Boston's been there from day one, but they were looking like a 2 seed in the beginning, in the middle of the year. Remember then when they kind of fell apart right during the in-season tournament? Because remember they thought, well, that's gonna be they're gonna win the in-season tournament, and then turns out the Lakers won it, and then they started to kind of fall back into mediocrity, and then it took a minute, and then people said, what's wrong with Halliburton? He's not as explosive as he was before. Blah 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 blah. And then I think they finally hit their stride right here in the playoffs.
Yeah, they've taken advantage of some situations, man. But they gave Milwaukee trouble all season long.
Right. Even last year.
The whole thing with Milwaukee, man, they may have been one of the most. The Clippers are the most disappointing team of the year to me, but they're always a very disappointing team. But Milwaukee's right up there with them this year.
Right. And guess what? It's been going on since 2019. Because let me tell you why. So 17 and 18, it was all about Golden State. And then the East was it was Cleveland, right? So once LeBron finally leaves the East, they said, well, I don't think we're going to see Cleveland up here anymore. So then Toronto is a team. But Toronto's only there because this Milwaukee team falls apart. So they're up 2-0 on. Well, Toronto, of course, had one of the biggest breaks in NBA history when Kawhi threw up that shot that bounced around the rim and all that, and then went in. So they take care of Philly. So Embiid once again is sad and all that. So then Milwaukee's up 2-0. That's they're gonna sweep these guys. And then all of a sudden, at halftime when they had the lead, Nick Nurse put the wall up, made Giannis ineffective. And they went from that to sweeping them off the court. So then the next year, it's Milwaukee's going to get it done this year in the bubble. But then they were supposedly distracted because of the stuff that happened in Kenosha and then, of course, George Floyd. So they said, well, Milwaukee should have probably won, but they had other stuff going on because of what happened in Kenosha. That's the home team, so they might have been disengaged. Because they even came on TV and said, I don't even know we should even be playing. I think George Hill said that. And George Hill, once again,
he had been in the league since.
Yeah, but George Hill's the reason why LeBron got swept in 2018. People want to blame J.R. Smith, but George Hill's 80-some% free throw shooter, and he went up there and missed. They would have sealed the game. So then 21, they're down 2-0 to Phoenix. Looks like Chris Paul gonna get his first NBA championship. And then Giannis gonna make that great comeback. He gets that 50 points in game 7. So it's like, okay, the Bucks are now gonna be a dynasty. The next year, they get embarrassed and knocked off.
Hey,
Then,
hey, Mike, I'm gonna have to cut it short here, man. I'm having some voice issues.
Got you.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So you think about it. So then 22, that's when they had home court and they were about to take out Boston, and then they let Jason come in there and get like 50 piece or 40 piece in Milwaukee where they could have won it. And then they end up winning game 7 in Milwaukee. So once again, underachieving Milwaukee. Then the next year is when they got embarrassed by Miami Heat in the first round. So that's what's been going on in Milwaukee during this stretch. When we say Giannis is one of the great players, and then like I said, he wants to be a Greek philosopher and say, I don't believe in failure.
I'm totally with
that is absolute failure for a team.
I'm totally with Giannis on that. We will argue that point next time, Mike. I am rapidly losing my voice.
That's little league stuff.
But and I just got a note from Derek had a situation come up, and he will try to join us next time. But I'm gonna get out of here. We'll be back probably Sunday this week, Mike. Check the schedule.
I'll check my schedule.
For my frat brother, Mike Roberson, I'm Rick Hampton. I'm going to go get me some tea and honey. All right. I'll see you later. Peace, everybody. Peace.